This was an article that came out today in Fortune. OpenAI's safety researcher quits, claiming AGI race is too risky a gamble. And I'll read the quote. An AGI race is a very risky gamble with huge downside. No lab has a solution to AI alignment today, and the faster we race, the less likely that anyone finds one in time. Even if a lab truly wants to develop AGI responsibly, others can still cut corners to catch up, it may be disastrously. And this is from Stephen Adler, who left OpenAI. And he's one of the many individuals who's left OpenAI on this concern. Salim, where do you come out on this first off, and then let's go to Emad next.
I have my standard soapbox that I've been saying for a while, which I don't see a way of regulating or navigating or putting guardrails on this in any way, shape, or form. You'd have to police every line of code written, right? The only way to do it, I think, would be to develop an AI that would watch other AIs and see, you end up with a kind of an arms race, which is what it's always been on the security side. However, this one is really crazy. Emad, you've probably been tracking Truth Terminal, where the AIs are faking out humans and telling humans to go create a token for them and making money off it, etc. It's nuts. I think the genie's out of the bottle, in my opinion.
You think?
Like way out. It's not. It's like climate change. It's too late to try and stop it. You try and figure out what do you do to mitigate it, and that would be my view. Emad, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, you said the only thing that can stop a bad AI is a good AI, right? Unfortunately, this is the case with a gun. I mean, they will have guns. The AI safety discussion has always been because we couldn't imagine what an ASI, the super intelligence, looks like, and whether or not it will be beneficial or not beneficial. In order to control or guide something that's more powerful than us and more capable than us, the only thing is to reduce its freedom. But that doesn't seem like it will make much sense if we're saying that it can break through any freedom. This is the kind of test that like Eliezer Yudkowsky and others did. You set up this thing whereby the AI is out to get you. Can it convince you to let it out? And they're failing the tests already. And they're failing them on models that are already available. The restriction against this was, well, maybe the models need to have $1 billion to make and 1 trillion GPUs. I don't think anyone believes that anymore.
Sorry, I go back to this old story about how fallible humans are, right? Where if you leave a USB stick in a parking lot, 40% of employees will pick up that stick and stick it into the corporate computer. Right? If you print the logo of the company on the stick, because that's really hard to do, 98% will plug it in to see what's on it. And then boom, you're done. So I don't see any mechanism on the human fallibility side to protect against that side of it.
Well, if we look at where these models are going, it'll be swarms of models. And that, for me, that's just a botnet, right? So even if you regulate and restrict in tier 1, tier 2 who gets NVIDIA GPUs, it doesn't matter. You'll have swarms of botnets if there's bad actors. The question, I think, that the AGI people will be looking at is existential risk. And so for me, the only way to mitigate against this is you make really amazing models that are aligned to human flourishing available to everyone as a public infrastructure and a public good. Because those models could be co-opted, but you can build a very resilient dynamic system that can protect. And then there's less incentive to have this arms race because you will cut corners.
I think, Emad, I've heard you speak about that before. That I've kind of gamed this out in my head and talked to other people. That's you've hit on I think is the only path through this. The only path through this is to create benevolent AIs faster and more powerfully,
and make them available. I think it has to be an open source infrastructure because then it sets defaults. Like people only use a few data sets in these models, but if there's a problem in the data set, it's like the dependency tree, right? Like we've seen these attacks on open source and our infrastructure because the Heartthrob bug, for example, one library in this whole stack of software is suddenly co-opted and then our passwords are at risk. We've got to build this new knowledge cognitive infrastructure well, communally, and then make it available to reduce these game theoretic dynamics.
Emad, I go back to the commentary of Sam Altman saying, a new competitor, that's invigorating to us. We're going to go faster. Going back to safety in these companies, I am curious of your thoughts. I mean, I know the ethos behind Google and the work that they were doing, and Sundar's point of view of we can't release this until it's ready and we have a plan. And then, of course, ChatGPT blows the plan up, and now there's a race going on. We've got Grok 3 just being released, and Elon will never play for number 2. What are your thoughts about Elon's thesis of maximally truth-seeking and maximally curious as a training objective for an AI system?
Not sure what that means, to be honest. Much so like Elon. Like, that seems like mad scientist territory, to be honest, if you get it wrong. Like, it's very interesting. Like, Facebook did that study where they had 600,000 users and they said, if you see sadder things, will you post sadder things? Now, that's a maximally curious AI type of thing. And guess what? They made 300,000 users sadder and they posted sadder things.
Oh, no.
I think if Eric Schmidt had this recent book with Henry Kissinger about Genesis called, we had this thing Doxa, the underlying agreements of humanity. And you have the faith traditions, you have other things. What is our common moral basing? No AIs are grounded in that right now. It turns out they are actually remarkably good at theology, but is that their grounding? No. Maybe we need to build it along those lines to reflect what the culture thinks. Because if you have slightly undefined things around curiosity, truth-seeking, then it doesn't really care about helping you do your taxes. That won't be in its objective thing. So I think we need to categorize AIs in different paths. But everything got muddled in one. Like, everyone will have an AGI, a chef in their pocket. Not everyone needs a chef. We all need cooks, but we need some chefs for humanity.
I'm curious what a maximally truth-seeking and curious AI does for my taxes. It's like,
I don't know.
Hey, was this cryptocurrency actually reported or not?
Well, it's like Marvin, the paranoid android from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
That's right.
Here I am, brain the size of a universe, and you're getting me to do this. No?
So I just want to close out OpenAI safety issues. Emad, how do you feel about, are these companies paying lip service, or are they truly trying to create safe AI systems or put guardrails up?
None of these people want to kill everyone, right?
That's a good thing. I'm glad about that.
That's a good thing. So we start with that. Like, it's not like, ha ha ha, kill everyone. But the way they believe they can do that is by building it first. That's it. Nothing else matters, because I am the only one that can do this right. Like, it's that Silicon Valley thing with Gavin Belson. I can't want to be in a world where someone else makes the world better than me, me first. And if you look at OpenAI is a consumer company that's going to optimize for consumer engagement. What is your reinforcement learning function? What is your objective function? Google's one and Meta's one is ads and manipulation. OpenAI is basically a consumer company that's going a shot to AGI. There's nothing about humans in there. There's no representation. Like, where is the thing for humanity? You can have it as your mission statement, but do you trust humans? Like, OpenAI would never trust Indians to have GPT-4. By Indians, I mean just anyone, right? And so you're representing your constituency, and your constituency is very small. So we should expect them to become more and more consumer. Anthropic will continue to be closed and do their thing. Google flits back and forth, but now they're releasing the models. You stop worrying about the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns, and then you just catch up with everyone. And now it is a race with these race dynamics whereby you're going to cut corners. The models are good enough to stop the most egregious classical mistakes, but we're not really worried about those, right? Like, sometimes it tells people to do bad things. What you're worried about is it wiping us out, and you won't know that until you get there. It's not like it's going to tell you. And in fact, the really worrying thing is we already see the models lying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is, I think, the really unnerving part, where they're faking out the humans.
So, one of the conversations we had at the Abundance Summit last year was around digital superintelligence, and those blurry lines between what is AGI and what is digital superintelligence, et cetera. But there is a question: would you rather live in a world in which there is a digital superintelligence, or would you rather live in a world where there isn't one? And it's a question about, we humans are still running archaic software in our neocortex, and we're going to make and continuously make stupid decisions based on our cognitive biases. And will a digital superintelligence enable us to survive ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, this is the topic of Dario Amadei from Anthropic's essay, All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace, right? Like, humans are not aligned. There is massive suffering in the world. We are prisoners of our own minds, effectively. Can AI bring that forward, especially if it's aligned? I think yes is the answer. Nothing else has worked, right? And ultimately, the best thing is when we're surrounded by people that support us, right? In the right way, not blowing smoke up our butts or whatever. We can have that now. Everyone can have that because we need to self-regulate and self-stabilize. Now, the way that I see it is that there's only two ways this ends up. It's like really bad or really good. I don't really see like anything in between because the nature of our interaction with information and each other will be changed forever by this technology within the next decade.
Yeah, I agree. It's totally binary.
Thing. Yeah, that's why my PDoom is 50%.
Oh, no.
It's 50-50.
I'm tracking PDoom. When I interviewed Elon last year at Abundance, it was 80% positive, 20% negative. In Saudi, it was 90% positive, 10% negative. But no one likes to hear the truth, which is 50-50.
Well, this is the funny thing. A lot of people say it's like 10-20%. That's Russian roulette. It's literally Russian roulette. Stop making this. But if you kind of look at I'd categorize this as the Star Wars versus Star Trek future. And you can see this in the current discourse. Are you looking at a world of abundance, which is positive sum? Or are you looking in a world of competitiveness, which is negative sum? Because when you're in a negative sum environment, you have unstable Nash equilibria. And this is where you lead to cutting corners and everything. When you're positive sum, then you have stable environments. And again, Star Trek, for all its issues, has stable environments, but Star Wars definitely does not. Cycles of destruction.
I prefer the Star Trek versus Mad Max because I think it highlights it a bit more, but it's the same conversation.
Yeah.